Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone to this special council meeting called by Council Chief Executive Officer Celia Haddock under Clause 11 of Council's Governance Rule to acknowledge the passing of Councillor Sarah Carter on the 6th of August 2024. I declare the meeting open at 6:31 p.m. today. I acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Kulin Nation. We offer our respect to the elders of these traditional lands and through them to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people past and present. I acknowledge and thank everyone joining us here either in person and online as we celebrating Councillor Sarah Carter. First elected in 2008, Councillor Sarah Carter was serving her 16 consecutive years on Maribyrnong Council, which including mayor term in 2011, 20 and 23. Councillor Carter achieved a remarkable feat of being the first third-term female mayor in 163 years of civic administration, not just in the history of Maribyrnong, but also its predecessor, the city of Footscray, for which she was extremely proud. Councillor Carter was only the second mayor in our municipality history and the only female mayor to achieve emeritus status, the highest recognition for distinguished service in local government leadership in Victoria. Tonight, Maribyrnong City Council is gathering here formally recognize and reflect on Councillor Sarah Carter, a loyal, passionate and tireless advocate for the Maribyrnong community. For those of mobile phone, I kindly remind everyone to please switch phone off or turn to silent. This is the meeting formality. I would like to explain to you, Councillor. We have one item of business on the agenda this evening, being to acknowledge Councillor Sarah Carter and to consider a motion of condolence. I would advise the meeting that Maribyrnong Council meeting are governed by Council Governance Rule. In accordance with Clause 38 of the Maribyrnong Council Governance Rule, as Chair, I wish to advise that I will grant an extension of speaking time to all councillors who wish to acknowledge Councillor Sarah Carter. This is considered appropriate to allow due to proper reflection on Councillor Sarah Carter. As the Chair and the Mayor of the Maribyrnong City Council, I move that Maribyrnong Council, on behalf of its community and organization, express its deep regret and sadness at the death of Sarah Carter, Maribyrnong councillor from 2008 to 24 and mayor for 3 terms in 21, 2011, 2020 and 2023, and play on record its appreciation for her commitment, contribution and service to the Maribyrnong community, and extended its sympathy to her family and friends in their bereavement. I call for Councillor to second the motion of condolence. Councillor Carter. Oh, sorry, Councillor Clark. I apologize. I would now like to invite Councillor to speak to this motion. Oh, sorry, Councillor second. Could I have for the overview now to put to the vote? All those in favour?
No.
Don't need to do that. No. Or do we don't do it?
I said, could I ask for the councillor to speak?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'll be confused.
I'll
So,
reserve.
Councillor,
It's okay, Mayor.
Councillor,
Clark.
Councillor Clark, would anyone would like to speak first?
Right. Open. If that's
Yeah, we're open for
councillors and your worship.
Councillor Trent.
Thank you, worship. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. It is not a council meeting which any of us wish to have, and nor is an agenda item that any councillor or community member wishes to have tonight. But we sit here tonight, and as we have for the past week, the mourning of Councillor Sarah Carter, the mourning of Sarah. Sarah, for her many years, has been a cornerstone of our community. To many, she's been a tireless advocate, an unrelenting adversary for those who sat across from her. But for all of us here tonight, she's been a champion of the community. Many of those in the community only know Sarah Councillor, Sarah Carter, the councillor, Sarah Carter, the Labor Party member. For those who sit around this table and share the room with us tonight in the gallery, and I won't pretend to know her better than any of you, because I know you all know her better than I did. She's just Sarah Carter, our friend. The first to lend a hand when asked, to lend a shoulder when needed, and to lend an ear when grievances were had. I still recall my first day stepping into council in the council chambers, and Sarah was one of the very first people that I spoke to. Said that she'd take me under her wing and show me as much as she could of council. Guide me through trials and tribulations and teach me how to communicate with all of you, how to be a hero and an advocate just as she was, and how to inspire. I do not know if I will ever reach those heights of inspiring the next generation of young, incredible advocates for our community, and nor do I know if I will ever reach those heights that Sarah Carter once did. But what I do know is this: Sarah Carter has contributed to this council on so many different levels, and that is evidenced by those who are here tonight to celebrate her works. As through her work for the community, we have all benefited. Not just personally, but also for our fellow friends and our families and all those who come to the city of Maribyrnong. I can only wish that I had one last opportunity to say to Sarah, thank you. It is hard. It is very hard. When I had shared so many moments of laughter, of anger and frustration, so many moments of fear and anguish, just about every emotion I could imagine with Sarah. It is even harder to know that I could not, in my last moments with around her at that last council meeting, she had one last good laugh. I do apologise, Councillor Crawford, it might have been at your demise, at your expense, correct. But I wish I could share one last laugh. For this year, we have lost many heroes. We have lost many friends. None more painful than the loss of Sarah. I do only wish that for those who are at home who may not have known Sarah personally, that you feel her work and her spirit through what is left behind and through what is to come. Sarah left us one great gift before she left. That gift is not just the inspiration that she leaves with us, but is also the projects which she has left behind. I do not say this lightly, and I would never say these words lightly, but I do promise that as long as I sit on this council, as long as those projects can be achieved, I will push for them to be achieved. Because we all know in this room that not just because she was a councillor, not just because she was a councillor, but because she loves this city. Each of those projects will benefit our community in some form, shape or way. As councillors, that's all we want, to benefit our community, and no one knew that better than Sarah. Councillors, I wish to thank all of you for your service on council thus far. And I say that now because I could not say that to Sarah. I do not want that happening again. That's not to say that another councillor should pass, and I touch wood that no councillor should pass. For this community should not lose another hero, should not lose another champion. And more importantly, for those of us in this room who are friends too, none of us should lose another friend, a daughter, a sister. Councillors, we mourn the passing of Sarah Carter. Fail Councillor Carter. Fail Sarah. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Train. Any other councillor want to speak? Councillor Bernadette Thomas. Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Mayor. Unlike Councillor Tran, I've written a few notes just to keep me on track. So, Sarah, my reflections of Sarah are that she was fiercely intelligent, she was smart because she knew how to use her intelligence for good, and she was very politically astute. And many nights I'd go home after a meeting and think, damn it, Sarah, how did you... I didn't see that coming. She wasn't shy about sharing her experiences of life if it meant it could help someone else to make better sense of their own life. And here I specifically thinking about how candid she was about her experience of IVF, but also about being a woman in a leadership role, in a public-facing role, and what that meant in the good times, but also in the times when it wasn't so good. And anyone who saw us in the chamber knew that we didn't see eye to eye on everything, and that even when we did, we sometimes argued about how to best get to the, the point that we were both headed to. But there were a number of key issues that we were really aligned on, and that I think, we worked well together, and I really enjoyed working with her on. And those are gender equity, the arts and culture portfolio, and support for members of our LGBTQIA+ community. And even just at the most recent LGBTQIA advisory group, I chair it, and Sarah is a councillor rep, and she was online. I can't remember where she was, but she could hear us, but we couldn't hear her. But that didn't stop her from... She was tapping out on the chat on Zoom or Teams. So, I think, she was still fully engaged, even though she was at a distance and also at a disadvantage because of the technology. But I think, just that tiny example speaks to her sort of tenacity and her, just her willingness and her eagerness to contribute in whatever way she could, wherever she was, under whatever circumstances. She used very willingly her networks in government to make introductions to ministers and people in the opposition and advocate for the Maribyrnong community. And, this was exemplified in no better project than the Creative West project, which was really her baby. And, she put the mayors and former mayors and the CEO and the executive in front of every minister or every opposition person or every person that she knew could have an influence on the decision that was to be made about potentially funding that project or not. And she did it willingly, she did it passionately. And probably finally, her passion for gender equity was really evident, and she was really generous, I think, with passing on that message to young people, not just to young women, but to young men and young gender diverse people, about how important representation is. And, you know, most people probably know she was key to developing Council's first gender equity strategy or plan, and was the inaugural gender equity ambassador. And now, you know, that she's passed, every time I see the gender equity 2030 decals on the trucks, you know, that will remind me of her contribution to improving gender equity, not just for our community, but also for the organisations that she supported. She has, I'd really like to extend my condolences to her partner, to her family, her friends, and those in the community who she was connected to. And we know that her reach and her impact was felt by many, not just in our community, but across many parts of the world already. And we know she'll be missed. We know that she'll be missed, you know, out there in the community, but she'll be really missed in this room amongst us. She had energy and enthusiasm to burn, and she was also energised by public service and by being able to contribute. She was energised by the leadership role and what that meant in her community and outside. But mostly, I think she was energised by living and working in the community that she loved. Thanks, Nan.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor? Councillor Hockey?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, I'd like to express my heartfelt condolences to family and friends of Sarah. You know, a sadness such as this really doesn't have an equivalence in words. It's something that's only really felt inside. I think it was on Sunday, I can't remember. On Sunday I was walking home from my one of my usual futsal matches through Whitten Oval, and just going through the Bulldogs, you know, reminded me of Sarah instantly. And I'm sure, I was thinking about it as I was going home, I'm sure there will be many places, spaces and events that will remind other people in our community, not just councillors, but many people in our community of Sarah and all the work she did, which has already been touched on and spoken of. I've said elsewhere, I don't really make a habit of paying tribute to too many people in official political circles, but I have no problem doing so for Sarah. Push comes to shove, I'm a pretty black and white person, and for me, Sarah was on the right side. One manifestation of that that hit home to me very early on, as soon as I got elected onto this council and had some conversations with her, is that in conversations, in debates especially, or arguments, especially one-on-one, Sarah didn't come in the back door. She didn't hide anything. She came in the front door. It meant that when you had, or at least in my experience, when I had a discussion / debate with her, because as people know, you know, there was a lot of things we didn't agree on, I didn't walk away from that in any way stressed, even anxious or annoyed, which tends to happen when people come in the back door in a debate and discussion. She came straight through the front door and was willing to have that discussion and debate earnestly, which I think was, one, for me, a clear manifestation of that her heart was in the right place in everything she did, and I think that's obvious to everyone, not only from all her time on council, but also from her professional work. When I was, I kept walking obviously home after reflecting a little bit, slowing down through the Bulldogs, thinking about Sarah. When I got home, it reminded me of a poem by a poet called Garcia Lorca, and I wanted to finish my tribute to Sarah with this. It's called, or in Spanish, it's Despedida, farewell. It's brief. If I should pass, leave the door open. People are asking to be fed. From my window, I see them. The farmer is harvesting the corn. Through my window, I hear him. If I should pass, leave the door open. Valet, Sarah.
Thank you, Councillor Hogan. Yeah, Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, firstly, condolences to family and friends. This is obviously a hard time for council, but obviously a much harder time for them. So, yeah, firstly, we need to keep this in perspective, that first and foremost about family and friends. I think for me, like the passing of anyone, when it happens suddenly and unexpectedly, it's still quite surreal. Like, it's only sort of looking around this table now, not seeing the name tag there, that you sort of, wow, this is, you know, it's actually sinking in. For me, when I think about Sarah, the first thing that jumped out is her work ethic. Like, there's no doubt, you know, she's one of the hardest working people I'd ever met. Would often joke about just the fact that we're councillors, we're suckers for punishment. But then, you know, she was like 24/7 travelling for a job and doing councillor. You know, she was 3 years a mayor at the same time. Yeah, if there's one thing you couldn't take from Sarah, it was that she was a hard worker, that's for sure. And it's really tied in with her passion too. Other councillors have already mentioned how passionate she was about this community and her work. And again, you know, there's no taking that away from her. I know there's a few things she's certainly drilled into us here at council, especially officers, the process. Always got to get the process right. She was massive on process. And to start with, when I first got to know her, I thought, oh, you know, what's the big deal? But then as you're a councillor for more and more years, you realise that, I think her exact words were, you can be attacked for, no, sorry, I'm going to quote this wrong now, but basically it's about people can criticise us if we get the process wrong. They might not like the outcome, but they have a genuine criticism if we get the process wrong. So I certainly know council officers will take that away as a legacy from Sarah, as well as her big passion about comms. We're not, this is no attack on our comms team at all, but over the years we haven't always been the best at comms, and that was another thing Sarah was always very passionate about, is making sure that we're out there talking with people, talking with residents, explaining why we're doing what we're doing, and not just going about our business and not bothering to take residents along for the ride. So that's certainly one thing I'll always have in the back of my mind now because of Sarah. I mentioned Sarah's passion. It was tenacious, really. Like, she was the sort of person that she just wanted to help people make the place better than it already was. And as Jorge says, you know, I didn't always agree on how we should go about doing that, but you could always respect each other for your positions and the way you go about doing it. So, yeah, Sarah's passion was another thing that really stood out for me. And for me, Sarah, like most of us, I guess, or all of us, she had good times and tough times in her life, and she always seemed to be able to come out positively from those experiences. I know, Bernadette, you mentioned about her IVF experience and how she can do that publicly and I guess air that for other people to take comfort in their own grief, their own suffering. I think she was very good at that, taking people through journeys and helping them to deal with their own problems at the same time through her challenges. The other big thing about Sarah is thinking back, I guess, about what I've learnt from her. It reminded me of happiness. To me, true happiness comes from servitude, from helping the community at large, but particularly those that are most vulnerable. And obviously with Sarah's work for Save the Children, that was a massive part of what she did. And for me, I think that's probably a big part of the secret to her happiness, was the fact that she was always out there helping other people, doing the best that she could do to help other people. And for me, my legacy from Sarah really will be that if you're doing your best to help others, then that's the key way to happiness. And I think we can all learn that, well, firstly, you know, if I know there's a lot of depression and mental illness and things out there, if people can learn from Sarah, get out there and try to give back to the community, firstly, you know, they might be a bit happier themselves, but also we're all going to benefit from it, and hopefully we can all make the world a little bit better from what we've learnt from Sarah. So, thank you, Mayor. That's all from me.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. No. Deputy Mayor. So,
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, councillors. I want to say at the outset that Councillor Carter was unbelievably proud of this council. You have no idea. She was so pleased that she said, you know, it is the sharpest bunch of people I've ever worked with, Clarkie. She said they keep us on our toes, eh? I can't believe she's not here. 45, that's all she was, 45. And it was at your expense, Councillor Crawford, when, you know, we managed to sort of enjoy the taunt and the attack. And yeah, you do have broad shoulders, and it's appreciated. But that's the point. You know, if you didn't have the capacity to engage in the joust, she wouldn't engage. No need. She was unbelievably fair, really. And what's been said about her passion, with passion, the other side to it, or the other dimension to it, was her compassion for those around her. You know, with the Save the Children job that she had, and she bounced round all over the world. People have no idea. The refugee camps that she was in, and not just taking politicians. I sort of clipped there with her and the Prime Minister and Tim Watts, again, looking at a village. She was really committed, 110%, and that's the point with Sarah. I'll tell you a few things. Why not? She's not here. She can't say anything. You know, her mother, and I want to acknowledge too, as others have done, you know, my absolute condolences to the family here. Like, 1 minute she's here, next minute she's gone. I can only say for her mother how tragic it is for a parent to bury a child. Yeah. Yeah, look, she, with the Save the Children, refugee camps, pigs. One of the projects she had was to help, you know, struggling farmers, I think up in Cambodia. No, it could have been Laos. And she called on all kinds of people to buy a pig. You know, she didn't have to do that. It could have been just a job. Why not? So easy for it to be 9 to 5. But nah, not Carter. No way. She, and I'll say this to you, she was not as lucky in love as she would have hoped. Up until the last. With Nick, she was completely in love with this new guy, Nick. And he'd been around for a few months. I've lost time, I don't know how long. She said to me, the other day, I'm sick of it. I'm not going to Taylor's Hill. He can spend the $2 million and we're going to go live in Yarraville together. She was really clear about that. Yeah, she was in love with Nick. That's what she was about. Passion, compassion. She gave to her community and really, have no illusions, councillors and anyone else who's prepared to listen. It's one thing, and we all know it, everyone here and some in the gallery know it, to get voted onto council is a phenomenal thing. Doesn't come easy. Then, to get to be mayor once, just once, is fantastic. And in the old Footscray Council, Footscray City Council, I think there was Lynn Koski, was she the only female mayor ever in that council?
Sika.
Oh, no, I think
No,
that's-
Sika Carey was a
Councillor.
councillor. She was, there was only, I think there was only,
there was one more.
was Miss King, apart from, who else? Yeah, I think about Lynn Koski was the only one. Thanks, Catherine. I acknowledge Catherine coming.
Sarah Coward.
Yeah. So to do it once was amazing. Twice, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And she was the first female to do it 3 times. There are only 6 councillors in the greater than 160 years of the city of Footscray and its successor, Maribyrnong, to have held that 3 times. She's the only woman. She really was destined for greater things. For me, if you're looking at what is a 21st century leader, and I think that this is your point, Bernadette, Councillor Thomas, I beg your pardon. She was the quintessential 21st century leader. She didn't need to be hard-nosed. No, she could have strength and she could have the capacity to be caring. She is something that we can only hope to emulate going forward. I am in this woman's shadow. She took this city in one of its darkest hours through COVID. She was there. She led it. And there was so much more to come. They'll, in many ways, the legacy that she'll leave behind, and I say to the LGBTQIA plus community, to every single one of yous out there, gang, she loved you so much. She loved going to the drag events, absolutely. And you know why? Because she saw that community as being a community that was vilified. She saw that as a community that was oppressed, and she couldn't stomach the oppression. She went toe to toe with Matthew Guy. You know, when Matthew, bless his cotton socks, and this is nothing against Matthew Guy, not at all. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. But she was happy to go toe to toe with him over the Joseph Road precinct and the debacle that was left, and she was having to pick up the pieces as mayor. She was tenacious. We've lost a hero, an absolute hero. Particularly for the women. Girls. If any girl is thinking about what they might be able to do, take a look at any of the YouTube that we've got on Sarah Carter. That's what you can do. Giants exist. And she was a giant. Vile Sarah Carter. She was my friend. Thanks, mate.
Sorry, everyone, it's a very difficult time. I would like to say a few words. Sarah was my dear friend in college, and much more than someone that we're serving alongside. I first got to know Sarah in 2008 when she was first elected as a councillor, and again when I was re-elected to council for the second term, 2016. And we have working closely together ever since. I am proud to have had the privilege of being Sarah's deputy when she was a mayor, and again when I was mayor. We share many common goals and aspirations, and I could only rely on Sarah for support. Sarah was passionate about our city and local community and brought energy, enthusiasm, and creativity for all that she did. Sarah was a champion of negotiation skill when things challenged her, and she did with that very, very well. Sarah's legacy is a long-standing. I just give you a few things as you will remember. The festival city that she has been running since 2011. The Maribyrnong River beautification, this including a cycling and walking path and exercise equipment. Footrail University Town, which brought the city and the university working collaboratively together. And just recently we signed an MOU. Redevelopment of the Bluestone Church in Footrail as a performing arts space. She was a trailblazer for gender equity for council promoting community, sport and women participation. She led the development of the Creative West initiative and lobbied hard with the state and federal government for Performing Arts Center, Library and Art and Culture Center in the center of Footscray. We will continue Sarah's fight for this much needed resource within our community. McIver Resource, community and a basketball stadium, which Sarah bravely supports through council resolution. Footscray Park, Western Lawn, which is great legacy for our community, just finished in June this year. She worked which day and which night, come over, it doesn't matter, time doesn't matter. Footscray Park, the Flood Recovery Committee, which Sarah represents council on, and work hard to support the community and her ward to get up and running after the flood of 2022. She was especially fearless in the face of new challenges like McIver, as I mentioned before, research, and working to attract funds for the Creative West, as already mentioned. And I met Sarah with greatly missed, not just by her friend and colleagues here at the council, but also the many in our community whom she represented. It is heartening to read and hear the many positive comments, as I receive a number of email, messages, texts, every day since last week, since Tuesday until now. And the widest recognition of Sarah's passion and determination during her life of service. She was passionate about Western suburb and contributing to such as the development of the West over the 16 years. She was a wonderful person who gives so much of herself to others. Sarah was intelligent, dedicated, and a champion of optimism whose commitment to advancing community well-being, youth services, community, sport, art, and culture, and gender equity was always put first. She always had our community best interest in mind and were extremely proud to be representing in for the West. Sarah receiving a multiple award for her contribution to the council since she was first elected 2008. She was also right proud of her achievement in becoming the first third-term female mayor in 163 years of the civic administration, not just in the history of Maribyrnong, but also its predecessor of the city of Footscray. So I want to extend my deeply condolence to Sarah's loved one, family and friend, and send them strength today and all the days ahead. Well, my friend, dear Sarah, you will be greatly missed. I'm sure you'll be around here with your spirit. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Wow. Now with the motion into the vote, those in favour. I declare the motion carried, and now I call for those present here today, please stand, if you can, and joining in a minute of silence in the honour of our friend and colleague councillor Sarah Carter. Would you please be seated? Thank you. That is concluding tonight's council meeting, and I declare the meeting closed at 7:16 p.m. Well, Councillor Sarah Carter, thank you very much, everyone, for being here to share with us.